Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about rated solo shuffle, along with regular solo shuffle as well, giving a little bit of feedback on my thoughts on it now that I've played it a decent amount. I had played a few rounds like on the beta and stuff like that, but I played quite a few rounds on live, which you'll see in the background footage, some of these rounds, and I have some feedback and thoughts on it for sure. So when you're on like World of Warcraft Twitter or forums and stuff like that, the biggest thing you'll see with solo shuffle right now is talking about tanks queuing for solo shuffle and how unenjoyable that is. I do mostly share those sentiments, but I don't think that's actually the biggest problem. And so making this video, I want to talk about the things that I thought were bigger problems. And of course things that are really good, because I do think it's a really good thing. I think it's a very good thing. We'll talk about that as well. So the tanks queuing in and replacing your healer, that does kind of stink. I don't think it's a huge issue long term, because in the future, this is pre-patch, things are kind of broken. It's mostly guardian druids that can do a ton of damage that are causing the issues, and this will not be the case when Dragonflight hits, right? And if something like this is the case, you can easily nerf the crap out of tanks for arena, because it's not really meant for them. You want to see them be able to compete, but if something's out of hand, you can always do a thing where you make tanks take like 50% more damage or something. It probably wouldn't be that high, and make them just get obliterated and make you less incentivized to queue as a tank, because you'll probably just lose a lot. So that issue can be solved immediately. I do have one big issue, and pretty much only one issue really, and then I'll get into more of the positives. So my biggest issue is the healer differential, right? The healer diff in Overwatch. People always say support diff, DPS diff, tank diff, whatever. There's a healer diff issue. I don't know if this is solvable, but oftentimes I feel like the good healer will win, because the healers are never on the same team, obviously. The good healer will win 6 rounds, and the bad healer will lose 6 rounds, whichever one is better. And it doesn't really matter the comp of the DPS. The healer themselves, by knowing how to trade cooldowns better, and maybe use CC better, can kind of control the match. A healer always has a little bit of control over a match. In some ways, range DPS do as well, like mages, warlocks can have control of a match as well, for sure. Rogues, as melee, can have a lot of control over a match. But generally speaking, healers can have a lot of control over a match, especially when there's no comms or anything going on. They're in a unique position where, yes, they're healing, but any downtime where they don't have to be spamming heals, they can be CCing, they can be, if they're shaman, like interrupting, or other classes now that have interrupts. You can be doing a lot more stuff, basically, as a healer, and allowing you to outplay the other healer and therefore win the game. Again, I don't know what the solution to this is, because other than, because they already are trying to matchmake you with similar skill players. But the issue is, for me at least, I'm only at like 1800 right now. It is kind of nice. You kind of, as long as you're kind of decent, you kind of win consistently in this as well, which is good, because you'll at least like win your 3 rounds with the good healer if like you're a decent player. And so I kind of like that, but at the same time, you lose the 3 rounds against the better healer a lot of times, and so I mostly am trying to win like 4 rounds. If I can just beat the better healer one time, maybe do a hard switch that they aren't expecting or something, and take them by surprise, then I'm usually pretty happy about that. But again, I don't know how to necessarily fix this problem. I don't know if it is fixable. I've heard one good thing. It's actually, I don't know if it was posed as a solution to this, but allowing it to be 3 DPS versus 3 DPS sometimes, I think that puts you in a unique position where I don't think very often someone in that's going to win 6 rounds. I just don't think that's going to be the case very often. Sometimes, maybe, sure, a really, really good mage, a really hyper good rogue, but you're going to face those people more in the top bracket where everyone else should be kind of good, you would think. And so, like, while you're leveling up, while you're at like the 1800 range that I'm currently at, I don't think you'll have that where you have one person winning 6 rounds. So maybe that would be a good way to kind of, change things up a bit, from having like the healers be so dominant. And they're doing things like increasing dampening, making healers less impactful slightly, and that maybe that's the solution. Have the impact be lower overall, so that way, just by definition, the margin between the healers has to get smaller, because the general thing gets smaller. So like the diff, even if it's still a 50% diff, it's still it's now a smaller diff, even though it's the same percentage. Maybe that would help as well. So I do like seeing that as perhaps a possible solution there as well, of just kind of lowering the impact of healers too. Of course, healers are a big thing for Arena, but in this kind of a meta, it's not bad to have not necessarily meta, but this kind of a game, right, where it's no comm, solo queue. I think it's fine to also have like 3 DPS versus 3 DPS. I think that's another solution, especially if queue times ever get long waiting for a healer. I think that's a good possible solution as well, to just kind of get more games in and, not have that feeling where, oh, I got the bad healer, we're going to lose. Because I will say that's probably the most deflating thing. Now, that's enough negatives, because this is actually really cool and really good, and it's very promising. Has a lot of hope for this, actually. So the number one thing I'll say on the positives is that if you are like socially awkward like me, you might be like, you're socially awkward, you do videos, whatever. It's like, yeah, I'm not socially awkward because I'm afraid of what I look like or what I sound like or anything like that. I just am socially awkward. And I think a lot of people like that exist in the gaming space. And so, solo queue is obviously a natural thing for them. Now, of course, solo queue with no comms and stuff leads to a lot of toxicity, negativity sometimes as well, whether that's League of Legends, whether that's Overwatch, whether that's whatever game. You could pick any game, right? That's just the reality of it. You kind of don't have it that much. You have it a little bit even, but you don't have it like that much in like heroic dungeons, right? Because everyone there is just like on a really casual level, like 95% of the time. And so you don't have, or like time walking dungeons and stuff like that. It's a lot more rare. It does exist, but it's not like League of Legends where like every single game you're going to have somebody saying some really outrageous crap to you, like every single game. So, like that is definitely an issue. However, I think the positives outweigh that. For me, it's very stressful finding a partner to play Arena with. Like, I usually only do 2s, right? Sometimes I do 3s, but usually I only do 2s. It's very stressful for me to find a partner, to communicate with that partner. I'm especially like, let's say you're actually winning even, so vibes are really good. However, it's like getting to know somebody. I'm a very unique individual. I'm very, to toot my own horn, I'm very like an intelligent individual, and a lot of my personality rests on that intelligence. So it's like, if I can't communicate with this person correctly, it makes me not really want to play with them. And I very much narrow the pool of people that I would want to play with, and that's no one's fault but my own, right? And so I get into these things, whether I'm winning with somebody or losing with somebody. It's very awkward for me to be like, okay, I'm going to leave the group now. You're really, really bad. Like, I find that awkward to navigate as well. Of course, then you just have the people, including me, who just leave the group. Or for me, I'm so awkward about it, I might leave the group and just log off. So that way nobody can message me or whatever, and I'll get back on in a few hours. So I think it's really good to have a solo queue option. I really think it's good that it's also a rated option. This is a way to people to get gear. It still takes a lot of skill. I'm at the 1800 level, and people once I got up to like around this level, like 16, 17, 1800, people are starting to like really try hard. People are trying to peel for people. People are doing a little bit more CC now, and like it feels like more of a real arena match now. Than it did, the first few, when you're first getting those few ranks. But that's kind of the same in regular Arena too. Your first few matches are usually pretty much jokes, unless you do it on like the very first day of Arena, and then you could be facing against like rank 1 players or whatever, very first day of the season. So that's probably the biggest positive, is that it's a great way to get people who are a bit socially awkward into this end game space of WoW, which WoW has become an end game and seasonal game, and it's a way to get people to participate in this. You're gonna have a lot more participation in PvP with Solo Shuffle. I don't even know like how much percent wise it would be, but I imagine it's gonna be quite a bit. The toxicity will weed some of those people out, unfortunately, of course, because if they wanted that, they'd play League of Legends or something for certain people. But I think overall it's really good. The other thing, other things that are just really good about it is that it's just it's really quick, it's really easy. That's the way gaming is now. You want to just be able to log into a game, click play. The gear is also going to be, at least in Dragonflight, I don't know if it is yet, but the gear is going to be kind of scaled near each other, so that way it doesn't matter so much if somebody with really low gear queues with you. I think you could completely normalize the gear, and I'd be fine with that. At least for the solo queue, right? If you didn't want to do that in like traditional 3v3, I'd be fine with that too, and just have it kind of scaled in 3v3. But in solo shuffle, I think the gear could just be completely normalized. I think that'd be completely fine. And they are doing that a little bit. I just think you could even take it a step further. But it's just really quick. It's really easy. It can still feel very rewarding. It can still feel very fun. With the dampening changes, while I think they're trying lesser healers impact, I think also it's just going to make the games quicker, get you more games in. And that's and this is like the crux of the argument of the second point is that with the games being quicker, you aren't sitting in the looking for group tool for an hour looking for a priest, right? You just click Q. You might get a priest for a healer, you might not. It doesn't make sense if you have a choice whether or not, like if you know your opponent is going to have the best healer possible, then you want the best healer possible too. But if you know your opponent might have a shaman and then you have a paladin, you don't care as much. Like assuming like shaman and paladin are similar, right? But like neither of them are the best healer, so it's fine. And everyone's on the same footing, and then you're also going to swap healers, right? You're going to have one of the healers 3 times, one of the healers 3 times. And so it's just like this, it's like a feeling of relief almost in that way as well, in that you get to just queue up and it's going to be marginally fair most of the time. And, and even if it's not, you can still win a couple rounds if you're a good player, and you lose very low rating as long as you're winning some rounds. And you do your best and you just queue again, and it's fine. I think that's something that's been sorely lacking from World of Warcraft as we've entered this gaming space in 2022, almost 2023, where everything is kind of just quick queue, go in. League of Legends, quick queue, go in. Overwatch, quick queue, go in. These are like very popular games. Valorant, Apex, all the first-person shooters, of course. But then like League of Legends, like I said, and other games where you can just kind of queue for things, even something like Final Fantasy where you can just kind of queue for everything and kind of get into everything fast. Lost Ark, all these things. And they're doing it more from a PvE standpoint, which I think there's room for World of Warcraft to grow in. I would really like to see like a 10-man heroic queue as a test for raiding. Not to change this into PvE context, conversation, but I would really love to see like a 10-man queue for heroic where you do 2 tanks, 2 healers, 6 DPS, and you have to have a certain item level to queue. Maybe you have to have a certain achievement to queue, like some achievement earned to just prove that you have raided before. And this achievement's like, hey, to unlock this, go complete this achievement. And maybe it could be even a dungeon achievement or something, like you have to do this dungeon without dying, or you have to do this without doing, just to kind of prove that you can kind of do mechanics and stuff like that. And have just like some achievement that's easily gettable, that doesn't take like a ton of time, but shows that you can actually play the game. And then like 10 people queue into it, you'll have people communicating. Some people will link their Discord or whatever. And I think that could be a very good way to get people into raiding. And I think as long as they're going to tune down the raids, which they said they're going to do, I think heroic will be doable in that way. And that's the only reason that I'm adding the caveat of the achievement. Maybe you could also do normal mode, of course, as well, and maybe not require the achievement and get people started. And then maybe if you complete normal mode, maybe that could be the achievement, and then you can queue for heroic, right? And then of course mythic is a different beast, so I don't necessarily think you should be able to queue for that. That would be like queuing for 2500 arena, like just queuing right into that without doing anything else first. Now maybe if you earn 2500 arena, then maybe you should be able to do that. But I think you have to have obviously limits to solo queue as well in a game like this that has such varying difficulties to it. So overall, I absolutely love solo queue. I think it's a great idea. I think it's going to be super beneficial to the game. I think it's going to help player retention because it gives something to do. Oh my, like the amount of gear I'm going to farm on alts now is going to be so much higher because, again, the stress of forming groups for me, like I hate forming groups for Mythic Plus, not because I'm not good, not because I can't do it. I might be the best DPS, I might be the best tank, I might be the best healer, I might be really good for the group, but I still have like this thing where I don't have enough gear, I don't have this, I don't have that. But if I farm enough gear through like PvP, let's say, right? And even if it's lower item level, I'll go into those lower keys with more than good enough item level and start earning that PvE gear, put replacements on, and slowly go my way up. My biggest thing is always being like, I don't want to hold the group back. And so having the solo way to farm endgame gear is really good for me personally. So I hope it's good for other people as well. I hope that they can take the criticisms and make them better. And I think the big criticism right now is, like I said, the tank stuff. I think that's easily fixable. And then whatever you can do to like lesser the impact of healers. Healers still need to be important. We want healers to queue. We want healers to have fun, but maybe lesser the impact of their actual healing. Let them still CC. Let them still interrupt. Let them still control. You know, but maybe lesser the impact of their heals in a way in solo shuffle. Maybe that could be good. So that's it for this one, guys. As always, I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel. Helps me out so much. And other than that, everybody, have a good one.